Hi, this is Ast3rix and welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to be furthering our series of learning the exotic scales. We're going to be covering the Japanese scale of C. The Japanese scale of C is a pentatonic scale, meaning it contains 5 notes. And I know it looks like it has 6 notes when you're looking at the chart on the screen. The upper note, which is a C, is an octave, and it doesn't count as really technically a note. Well, it is a note value, but not technically a part of the scale. So that's the explanation for all of the extra note that you're seeing. Okay, so the Japanese scales, actually there are 4 of them. The other 2 are simply named 1 and 2. And there's also an additional one that exists called the Yo scale. And that's what we're going to be doing today. Doing a song or a track with that particular scale. Now, because of the type of music that I've decided to do today, I'm doing things just a little bit differently. I'm going to be walking you through how I constructed this track because it has such a large amount of things going on in it. I didn't want to make this video be like 2 hours long. So I'm going to break down the sections and kind of walk you through what I did to be able to do this particular track. And we'll kind of work through that way. And I'll also show you some kind of tricks and tips of how I've been building things here lately. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, let's see here. Let me start with the melody, and let me go ahead and just kill everything else. I'm going to kill all of the rhythm elements, kill all of the effects. Oh, I need my mic there. Okay, so like I stated, I did pre-record this one just because of the amount of information that's in it. And I'm going to show you how I built the melody, the rhythm section, and the other elements in the song. So the first element I want to show you is the primary melody, and I'm going to kind of let you hear what it sounds like first. Okay, so what I did with that, and let me open up my little MIDI keyboard. And let me make this bigger. Okay, so let's just start with the scale, and I'll show you the notes that are in the scale. The notes in the scale, opening up my keyboard here. The notes in the scale are C, C sharp, F, G, A sharp, and C. So let me just play back through that. C, C sharp, F, G, A sharp, and C. So remember that. And what I was doing with the primary melody is this. It's just kind of so again, I want to encourage you when you're getting into a point where you're kind of stuck on creating melodies. The best way that I've found personally, and this is just a tip, is to just tinker around with the scale until you can come up with something. And I guarantee you will get out of that mode that you're in just by tinkering around with the scale. And that's kind of the purpose of these videos, is to show you that you shouldn't be afraid of music theory. It is quite useful. Yeah, there are some concepts of music theory that can be a bit complicated, but I promise you, if you sit down and just start with the basics like your scales and your chords, you will be further along than a lot of people are. What it does is it builds up your musical abilities in being able to hear the tones and perform the tones as well. So just by spending time with scales, the scales allow you to be able to hone your melodic melody skills, because you're able to switch between the keys, and be more masterful about your key selections. So there's not a lot of other things that you really need to learn, unless you really want to. But the scales and chords are they're like the bare minimum. It's like the equivalent of learning math. When they teach you math, you need to be able to count, and in order to be able to, function as an adult. And I just kind of look at learning the basics of scales like that. And I know there are a lot of people out there that don't agree, and they have all these stigmas that are tied to learning theory. That's just people, man. The people do stuff, negative things, to sometimes make you feel inferior about what their inferiorities are within themselves. You can't listen to what people say and take it to heart all the time. Sometimes you just have to be objective about what you're hearing people say, and not really take it to heart. Use your own thought processes and do your research. And then make your own judgments about what things are. These are just tips. Again, it's objectivity that we need in our lives. All of us. Okay, let me get off my soapbox and get back to this track. Okay, so let's go ahead and close that out. And let me make sure it's closed so it's not playing while we're doing this. Okay, so the next thing I did was I created a secondary melody, and I used the mellotron for that. And let me just play you that. Turn that off. Okay, so let's talk about chords for a second. So chords they're very simple. You don't have to know chord theory right away. Chords are a combination of two or more keys that you can play together. When you're looking at these scales, let me just show you this one. So you can come up with chords just using the keys or the notes in the scale. So let me show you how I did that. So again, it's two or more. So that's what I'm doing. And you can do that as well. So I added more body to it by adding a third. So that's kind of what I'm doing with that. And again, it's all in scale. Oops. So that when I was coming up with the chords for it. Of course, and that's what I've been doing with all of these videos. Is I only play the chords that are in the notes of the scale. And again, you can pretty much figure out a chord just by using the keys in the scale. You know, that's nothing, you know? You know, and then I can add that last C if I wanted to make it a little bit more, added a fourth there. This key is not as flexible as the other scales because you're kind of limited to these notes. I could get into changing the key that I'm playing in, but I again with this series I've decided to just stay with the with the scale. Otherwise, what I would do under normal circumstances, I would look at this, like this key. This is a C. I would try like playing around with adding like a normal American based chord pattern based upon the key of C. And you can do that. Sometimes you can get away with that with these scales, but you have to be mindful of the way that it sounds. So again, it's about hearing what you're playing as well as being able to blend the scale with an alternative scale and still be harmonically equal. And as you continue to learn your scales, you'll see that there are things that you can do to mimic the harmonics in another key within the same scale that you're playing in. So in other words, you can have multiple scales that you're using at the same time and still have the have that primary root. Have the root be your primary that you always resolve back to. That's a lot more advanced, and we may get to the advanced stuff later on down the road. I'm trying to decide. I'll probably end up doing a lot more of the exotic scales, and then as we get more into the American stuff, I may start getting a little bit more advanced. But I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible so that a beginner who's watching this trying to understand you know, how to learn this particular scale, they can still follow along. But for the advanced folks who watch, and I know I have a lot of advanced folks who watch too, I want to still try to do some more advanced stuff with the scale. So it's hard to try to find a balance and not get it so advanced that it becomes boring and people don't watch, you know, just because they say, ooh, there's too much music theory in there. I don't know how they did that. And even though I'm like breaking it down, it still becomes more problematic. So that's what I did for that one. And let's keep going here. Let me close this thing. I've been looking for an alternative to the little MIDI keyboard, and I haven't found one yet. So let's get into well, let's do the bass. Okay, so this time I decided to do just a sampled a sampled loop for the bass, and let me just play that. Okay. So, and you can find that on Splice. And I find a lot of stuff that I'm using in my videos on Splice or on Loop Masters. I don't particularly have a preference of one over the other. It just really depends on how I'm feeling that day that I pick either one or the other. But you can find this on Loop Masters if you just look up that name. You'll find it. So that's just playing in the key of C, and it's doing like a little bend. So it's not doing a lot of things that are fancy there. So let's see. Let's move on to our rhythm section. So my rhythm section, I actually started out with the nerve, and let me show you that. Let me turn this thing back on, and let me turn it back on. So I started out with a kick and a snare, and I normally do this a lot on my rhythm sections. Now I can show you. I try to make things simple for myself with the drums nowadays, and I've really changed my entire mindset around drums. So I try to do things that are simplistic and easy. Now I can get more complicated, add more polyrhythms, and do some really advanced rhythm stuff, but I'm really more focused on the melody package nowadays. And don't get me wrong, I do put some stuff in there to, spice it up. But for the most part, I try to just stay with the basics. So I have a kick and the snare and the nerve. And I don't like doing my hi-hats in this thing, even though you can. And you can part all these things out to different channels if you want to. I just don't do it because I think I just like having control and visual control over my hi-hats. And that's why I do that. No particular reason. So in the loops, my sound selection for this one, yes, I am using Sound Oracle's kits, and I just picked up his new kit called Moon Rocks. I'm playing with that one right now, but I didn't use that one in this one. I used the Oracle Pack Volume 4. And I pulled a snare out of there, and I think that one is called, okay, come on, show me the name of the thing. It's one of these. I think it's that one, Costi. And then I pulled the hi-hat, or I pulled the snare out of there too. And it's one of these bad boys. Okay, let's see. Okay, I think it's that one. The Kleps. Or the Klepa. Yeah, that sounds like it's it. Okay, so, again, I've been pretty heavy on Sound Oracle sounds just because of the sound quality that they tend to keep to. And I don't have to do a lot of mixing and trying to blend and adding saturation elements to make it harder, and I just don't have to do that, and I really like that, of not having to do a whole bunch of extra mixing to be able to make it fit in my mix. And that's the only sound pack that I've found lately from a drum perspective that I can do that with. There are some exceptions out on Loop Masters. Some of the really good drum sets that I found have been with different labels. The ones I really like the most are the Dabro kits out on Loop Masters. They're really loud and punchy if you're like into like creating really loud and punchy stuff for like dubstep. And I've been looking at cymatics, but the cymatic stuff is, wow, I just don't have time to like sit there and try to audition a lot of their stuff. I wish they had like a setup like either Splice or Loop Masters where you can kind of audition stuff or go look for it when you're looking for things. But they don't. And the demos only have like a couple of different selections of what's in the actual pack. So I don't really like that. At Cymatics, can you guys like do something with that? I mean, from what I've heard, the sounds sound good. I just haven't invested in you guys yet. For that reason, I'm just saying, Okay. Okay, so back to this. So what I did was I recorded a kick and a snare from there, and I dumped it to this track right here. So this is the kick and that snare. that I did from the Nerve. Oh, you know what? Hold up, I'll just show you that Nerve. Okay, so again, it's just a basic kick and a snare, and I recorded that to a audio track so that I have more flexibility over it. And what I do also with this, with the Nerve, I'll record it. I can I can really dig into the recording. Either I can play the Nerve with just the kick playing, or I can play the Nerve with the snare just playing if I really want to do that. And then just paste in the parts that I want. Like if I want to do a drum roll or something, I'll do that. Or if I want to do like a build up with both the kick and the snare, I'll record those parts separately into another audio track, and then dump them into a singular track so that I keep all the stuff together. But that's kind of what I've been doing with my drums lately. And again, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I've been an MPC head for a really long time, but I just gave up on it, and I actually can't tell you the last time I've touched my MPC. That's not good. So that shows how it has been in use in my lab. Not much. Okay, so let's move on. Let's see. All right. Okay, so we have the kick and the snare, and then I've got just a hi-hat loop in there. Again, you can grab these things off of Splice or Loop Masters. Both tend to have most of the same libraries. And the names are there, guys. I'm not really hiding anything. I don't rename anything in here to try to hide stuff. Let's see. Now what I do is when I'm sliding this over, I'm doing that so that I can see this side of the screen, so I can see my inputs. It's not that I'm trying to hide anything from you guys. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you is I have a dubstep part in here. Yay! So I have been trying to implement more dubstep elements into my music. And yeah, I know, don't go there. I'm experimenting. Okay, so let me show you that little part. And I am in the process of learning more sound design elements and how to do things. And what I found is Serum is the most popular VST synth for learning how to do sound design, simply for the fact that it has a really flexible assortment of oscillators and filters and envelopes, and it also includes its own effects rack, which is, this is kind of unbelievable. So if you're like a beginner and you're trying to figure out what you actually need to start with, if it were me, and this is just me, and I was starting out for the first time, I would probably pick up Serum, Omnisphere, and pick out a DAW. And from a DAW perspective, that really is going to be really personal. It really depends on what and how you're going to be learning how to do things. Some of the most popular selections out there are FL Studio, of course Ableton, and Studio One has become pretty popular too because of its flexibility and the tool set that they've added to it. It has some really, really nice music theory tools that allow you to be able to do chord selection without having to spend a lot of time with learning theory. So, I mean, there's just so many things to think about when you're trying to select a DAW. And every single one of them also offer free demos. So if you're just on the fence about what it is you actually need, what I would do is I would download a demo of each one of them, and I would wait, use one of the products for like a month at a time. Then after you finished, after you finished working in that product, then download the next demo, and then work in that one for a month, and then ultimately out of the ones that you've picked to do your demos with, then just make a selection from there. That's probably the best way to do it, because all of the DAWs pretty much kind of work the same way, and they all have these different little tools and things about them that attract people. And it's really about workflow mostly. How are you used to doing your workflow? That's really what it's really all about, to be honest. And I from my personal experience, I've come from Reason. Was a Reason user to begin with, and the VST thing which got me away from it. Now that they've fixed the VST things, I've been on Ableton for a good year now. I just don't feel the need to go back. I still have it and I still use it, and I keep it up to date because I have a lot of song files that I still have in it from when, they're like song concepts to me. Some of them are not, they're just song concepts that I can take and I can port over into Ableton and actually finish or make new songs from. So that's why I keep it up to date, so that I can continue to have access to all of my song files. And we're talking about a lot of songs out there. Okay, so let's get back to what we're doing. Okay, so I have a dubstep element in the song, and it is a bass. I'm not going to go into all the sound design stuff. I'm just going to play it and just show you that it is a serum patch. It is not a loop. Okay, so that is the patch, and it's a serum patch. Okay, let me talk to you about patches. Let's just get on the soapbox for a second about it, because I have to say something about it. It's just people, they're so weird. All these people hang-ups that exist in the universe. It's bad. So there is a really negative connotation placed on presets. Guys, don't believe the hype. If you're just starting out, you're not gonna be a sound designer. I'm not a sound designer. I don't even proclaim myself to be one. What attracts me to most things that I purchase are the patches, along with the rest of the planet. So these people that tell you, oh, you can't be using patches, that makes you you're not a great musician if you're using patches. Dude, really? Come on now, for real. Patches are the reason why we buy the stuff. There is nothing wrong with you using a patch. Please believe that. That person that's lying to you saying that they don't use patches is lying. They're lying. Period. That's all I'm going to say about it. Sure, you can spice them up, add some effects, do some tweaking, but that doesn't make you a better person if you're using patches and tweaking them. It just means that you like to tweak your patches. Who cares? It's all about music and what you're getting from it. There could be a patch that inspires you to write the next Billboard #1 hit, whatever that is. I have really interesting thoughts about Billboard right now. The way the world is working is so funny to me right now. Um, you could be the next hit with using a patch. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't know who put that out in the ether, but whoever that is, yeah, have them kick rocks. That's just not even right. But yeah, patches, get a thumbs up. We need to remove all this negative stuff. People are so negative and so odd about just simple stuff. There's not negative about samples. They're negative about loops. They're negative about anything that doesn't have anything to do with like sitting down and actually playing something or sitting down and actually creating something. That's what you're doing. You still have to create something when you're using these products. You're having to create, being creative and using your creative skills to be able to use these things. So please, beginners, guys, you have it hard because you don't know all of the intricacies of what's happening. Especially if you're just getting started and you're hearing all these different things from these people that have all these weird hang-ups with themselves. And they try to spread that into the ether, and it's just not right. It's not right. Just, again, be objective. Use your own mind. Do not listen to these weird people with these negative hang-ups. The world is yours. Whatever you want, you can have. You just have to be able to be mindful, be diligent, and be respectful. That's all. And just don't quit. Trust me, that's the one thing that prevents a lot of people from being successful. They'll try something for a short amount of time and they get tired of it or bored with it and think that whatever it is they originally wanted from it is not going to ever happen, and they quit. And down the road, they see that somebody else who had the same objective or the same desires and wants and needs got that thing. It's because they decided to stay with it and you gave up. So again, I'm going to get off the soapbox. I'm on the soapbox today too much. Okay, so, all right, next thing we're going to talk about is, what else is different in this track? So I've got a vocal loop in there. It's a loop. Again, you can get these things on Splice or Loop Masters, one of the two. So it's a vocal hook in there, and I added like a little sound effect in there. I'm just going to add all these other little elements that I've added. This is a sound effect in the startup. Excuse me. And then I have a like a impact to start the beginning of the drop, which is like a kind of a heavy bass section. And then I've got another vocal loop in here, and I'm just gonna play that part of it right there. Okay, so again, a lot of vocal loops in this one. Have a layered vocal loop to play along with the top one, and I have like a little it's like a little blip sound that kind of interrupts in there in between, and it'll make a lot more sense once you hear the rest of the song at the end of the video. And I think that's all, guys. Oh, you know what? I did have one more section in the B section. Let's go over that real quick. This is just a loop that I grabbed on Splice, and you can find one. You can find it on Splice. Let me go to this section. It's just like a little melodic loop.
Get it. don't think so.
Okay, so that's just a loop. It's just a melodic loop. And again, I use a lot of different things in my tracks now. I have to say that from a musical perspective, over the past year or two, I have made some really tremendous leaps and bounds from a musical perspective. I never before I used to use as many samples and loops. I used to use loops and samples for like sound effects and for like drums or for like percussion instruments and fillers and that kind of stuff. And also some of the vocal stuff, but now I'm just, whatever works. I don't really care anymore. I've given up all the hang-ups and the negative thoughts towards using loops. Now, I do make sure that everything that I use in my stuff is royalty free. And sometimes that's really hard to tell if, even on some of these sites that are saying that they're selling royalty-free samples, sometimes you have to be very careful because they may have somebody who's posted something up and not really realize that it's not royalty-free. And I ran into that a couple months back when I was doing that video on building a song with nothing but loops. And I ran across a loop on Splice that was like an I'll Be Sure chorus. I was like, yeah, that's not royalty free. So again, you have to kind of be mindful of those kinds of things, even when you're using like Splice and Loop Masters. Now Loop Masters, I have to say, I've not seen that kind of thing on there. Most of the samples that are on Loop Masters are provided by these different labels that they contract with, and they tend to be 100% royalty free. So again, that's probably the only difference that I've seen between Splice and Loop Masters. But other than that, no, they're pretty much about the same. And I just wanted to say that about them. Well, that's all I've got on this show. Tried to make it a little bit quicker to shorten the time, and also since this track was so deep with a lot of different sounds, I wanted to kind of just work through it and show you how I built the track. So for the newbies out there, if you're watching this for the first time, I want to say thank you, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I have more videos to come. And I am currently working on my remix mixtape, which will contain a lot of the remixes of all the songs that I've done videos for on my channel, along with some new tracks that I'm working on with local artists. And I'm having a lot of fun doing that. I probably will do a video showing how I've was able to build a lot of the songs out that have not been released on my site with those local artists. I may do like a local artist series showing us in the studio working on the songs. That'll be fun. But that's coming, and that's all I've got. Subscribe if you haven't, and those who have subscribed, I want to say thank you so much. The channel is starting to grow very quickly, and I see a lot of people watching these videos, and I want to say thank you guys again for tuning in and watching this stuff, and I hope that you're getting something from it. And I appreciate all of the likes and the comments that I'm getting in the comment section. And that's all I've got for this one. I'll see you guys on the other side.